Morning, everyone. Please rise. Happy New Year and welcome to your January 5th, 2026 Rotary Club of Ames meeting. Let's join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anyone to keep in our hearts and prayers? Jim Patton, you had mentioned someone had...
One of our members, Marge Oldehoff, husband Arch, fell over the weekend and is hospitalized.
Well, let's keep Arch and the family in mind. Anyone else? Let's just take a moment here. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's go ahead and be seated. And we do have several guests today. I'd like to start with, I'm going to grab the mic over here, or if someone can help me with that. I'd like to start with an old member who's going to be a guest speaker for us in a little bit, but I want to go ahead and introduce Paul and his wife for part of our guests right here. You're good. It's working. You're on now, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. There. Well, it's glad to be back. I want to introduce my wife, Lynette Spicer, and you should stand up. And they're not interested in the back of your head. Thank you for having us.
Perfect. And we've got a couple of guests back here. I'll have Jim introduce the table there.
You bet.
I'm supposed to introduce the whole table? First, let me introduce my wife, Diane. We've known Paul and Lynette for a long time, but didn't know much about his hobby. So Diane said, I want to learn more about it. So that's what we're doing. You want to introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, I'm Ristu Regmi. I'm the International Service Director of Rotaract Club of Kirtipur, Kathmandu in Nepal and the Associate Member of Rotaract Club at Iowa State University, and I also go to Iowa State University. I'm a sophomore and I'm doing bioinformatics and computational biology. It's so nice to see you all here. Thank you.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Jessie Borkowski. I'm a guest of Kent's, I believe as well as Ristu, and I'm a realtor here in town. Century 21. Thank you.
Perfect. And I know we have Lily here with Rotaract today. Want to go ahead and introduce Lily?
Hello, nice to see so many familiar faces. I'm Lily from the Iowa State Rotaract. I'm the VP studying biochemistry, as also a sophomore at Iowa State University. So happy to be here.
And yep, go ahead over. Judge has got.
Hi, everybody. Judge Johnston, Boys and Girls Club. We're not doing the brag bucket today, but I need to brag about John Christie. Reached out to me a couple weeks ago and offered a football from the 1970s to auction off at our gala in February. And it was neat to hear the story about this football, but this football, we'll pass it around and you can look at it. There's names on here from Johnny Majors, Jackie Sherrill, Matt Blair, George Amundsen, Jim Zabel is on that football. But there's quite a few other names, but I just wanted to brag about John and his support and something kind of fun to share today. So thank you.
There we go. Nice. We'll collect your money next time. And we've got over here, we got Simon Marshall Gilbert going to be joining us today to talk about RILA.
I'm Simon Marshall Gilbert. I was an Ames High graduate this year in 2025, and the previous 2 years I've spent the summer at RILA, the Rotary Youth Leadership Conference, and last year I had the privilege to serve as a team lead, and this year I'm hoping to do the same, so I'll tell you a little bit about that experience.
Perfect. Any other guests I missed? Excellent. Well, let's go ahead and sing for everyone.
Hubert, you have a
Wait. Sorry.
You have a guest?
No, I don't have a guest, but I do have a guest. Len, stand up. She was the first one that called on us back in 1966 when Eddie Quinn opened a store at 109 Welch in Campustown, which I managed for years before I bought it and went downtown. And anyway, Lynn was the first one that called on us who took our advertising for the Iowa State Daily back in 1966. Welcome, Lynn.
Nice. One more round of applause for all our guests. Welcome, everyone. We got a song for you here. I'll turn it over to Louis. To you from Ames Rotary, Albany, London, or Gaithery, or far off lands of the USA. We're glad that you are here today. Come back again whenever you're near. Join us and then we'll make it clear. Around the world you'll always be welcome at Rotary. Thank you, Louis. We turned the calendar. Thank you. We turned the calendar and we've got birthdays for this month of January. Happy birthday, everyone there. And then for anniversaries, we do have one anniversary in January as well. So we're going to go ahead and sing the all-encompassing birthday anniversary song that everybody loves to do. Happy birthday and anniversary to you and me. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Happy birthday and anniversary. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Louis. That's the real magic right there in that song, right there. Louis is able to keep up with that and make it all good for us. Thank you very much. And then our membership. So please, Dean, you're here. You're at the top of this list. I'd like you to stand up. If you don't mind, I'll find a mic for you. Dean, are you here? There, I'm going to get a mic for you. I'm putting you on the spot, Dean. What do you love about Rotary?
Oh, it's a great way to get acquainted when you move to a new community. This is my third club. Started out in Indianola. Sioux City was my next, and then down here. But it's a great way to get involved in the community and meet a lot of wonderful people. I highly recommend it. Attend those meetings. Get to know your other fellow members. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. "58 years, a lot of years up on that board." Let's go ahead and give it a round of applause for everybody who's up there. Dave, Lynn, Allison. Next, we've got results of one of our recent polls approving leadership. Let's see. We've got President-elect Lisa Henders, board members up there. Everybody, this is what we've approved through the voting that we did over the holiday, and just wanted to share that with everybody. So thank you for those that are going to help join the leadership and giving your time. And just anything anybody wants to add to that? We're going to make them work hard, right? All right. Thanks to everybody who's up there. Online meeting next week, January 12th, and then we'll be back here at the off-site meeting on the 19th is MLK Day, so we're going to have a special social on that Monday. So the next two, we won't be here at the Plex. Next three, on the 26th, will be online. So we won't be back here to the Plex till the 2nd. There'll be more information on our website for the MLK Day social on the 19th. I believe we're starting that at about 5 o'clock. Yeah, so there'll be more information about that, and then we'll have the opportunity to go join those in the celebration there at City Hall. So thank you there. Next, I'm going to ask Kent to come up and talk a little bit about Rotaract, and we've got a special presentation today. So I'll have Kent just introduce that real quick.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. Since I know that none of us want to hear what Paul really has to share, I'm going to take the next 45 minutes. It is so great to see you again, Paul. It really is. It is with privilege that I get to visit just for a moment about what's happening with our Rotaract Club. It has just been exceptionally active, and we're really privileged today to have Lily Ferguson with us, who is the president-elect. And then next week, online, Lily shared that we have 2 other Rotaract members that would like to join in on our online session. And they're always welcome to do that. And obviously, they're always welcome to be here with us. She's a dynamic young lady, exceptionally involved, and is really, really promoting Rotary in every opportunity she has. Let's give a warm welcome to Lily.
I always have to lower this. Well, hello. Just wanted to start off saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and then happy first, month where human trafficking, we've declared January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I was really excited to hear from George saying that that was instituted in Ames just a couple weeks ago, and I'm really excited to see how many more counties in Iowa declare January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. For a little update from our club, we did have our last executive officer meeting about the last week before Dead Week, I believe, and we went over a whole bunch of plans for this next semester. So we've been trying to specialize our focus to an area where everyone in our exec team can put their own interest and skills to use. And we discussed at our last meeting to take on the Human Trafficking Awareness Project, not just as a club, but also as a district. During our last District 6000 Rotaract meeting, we did propose to the Iowa City Rotaract Club to do human trafficking awareness as well, and to really get those stickers to all of those locations that we desire, and to also start doing awareness on campus as well. And they agreed. So this next upcoming semester, we're hoping to put that together and do some joint stuff together, and it'll be really exciting. And then we also have another project for this semester as well. It's kind of a big one and a lot of collaboration on campus, which will be really exciting. We are working with the Red Cross Club at Iowa State, and as well as the ISU Blood Drive, all of the staff that put it together at the MU, to help promote the blood drive and get the most amount of numbers as possible. And we will also be doing a joint bake sale as well at the blood drive to make sure no one passes out after getting their blood taken, because I know I can be prone to that. So we are asking you guys for your help. I know my grandma makes a really mean cinnamon roll, and I know there's a lot of lovely grandmas in this room who can also make a really mean cinnamon roll. So we're asking for volunteers to help bake some yummy goods to sell at this bake sale during the blood drive. Dates are TBD, but we will be sending out emails to you guys on updates on when and where this will happening, how many volunteers we need, what that will look like. We'll also be having merch as well that we were planning to make. And then in order to entice some students on campus to donate their blood, we are planning to have a competition with the Greek life. I know that those sorority and frat guys all love to have a fancy trophy in their very pretty houses, so we're going to entice them with a competition of which house can give the most blood. And this will be compared with a very fancy trophy that we will get probably on Amazon, and then paint it to make it really look pretty. But we're hoping that this will give kind of an incentive to donate the most amount of blood as possible and get us, our Rotaract Club, recognized on campus as a powerful force in convincing people to do a little good for the community. Yeah, if anyone is interested in participating and volunteering at the bake sale, we'll be sending out some forms, but if you have any questions or inquiries, you can email me or our president or Rope with these emails if you want to snap a picture, or I can also send it out with minute notes after as well. Yeah, we'd love your baking expertise, because I can't bake very well. But yeah, and it's really nice to see everyone, and yeah, that's all I have.
There we go, supporting Rotaract by baking goods and possibly donating our own blood. That would be good. Next up, actually, yeah, we'll do membership campaign. I'm going to have Randy come up and give an update.
Thanks, Jamie. Happy New Year, everyone. It's great to see you. I'll be brief in my comments today. I'm really pleased to report some successes in our membership drive and ask you for some support moving forward as we start the next stage of our campaign to grow our membership back here at Ames Rotary. Let's go ahead and flip the slide, please. All right, so what I hope you see from this, I'll talk through it because the writing is a little small. Thanks to Allison for pulling this together. She's been super helpful behind the scenes and will continue to be as we move forward. This reflects, we've been trying to gather names that we can work on following up. And we originally set a target of 100. The goal was at least one name from each member of our club, and we want to get at least 100 names on this, let's call them a prospect list, so we can introduce an invitation to join us to learn about Rotary. It's not a commitment to join, it's just building a list of potential members for our Rotary Club here in Ames. You can see we're at 90 names at this reporting to our 100 name list. I feel really good about that. Can we give yourself a round of applause, please? That's a great start. We're still working through that phase. That's going to be an ongoing phase for us. Just today, received 2 more names. Thanks, Dean, for throwing those my direction. So we're still looking to receive those names as we build a follow-up and prospecting list. Now, as we turn the page into 2026, we're going to start with the active contacting phase. And so our membership subgroup, thanks, Diane, for being a part of that so far. We're looking for a couple more people who want to be a part of this effort. We're going to be, on one level, a bit of a mass campaign, but we envision a scenario where each individual is going to be contacted uniquely. And so it will be an individual email with a little bit of personalization, and then the follow-up scheme will be somewhat dependent on maybe who suggested the name, because some people indicated, hey, I'd be a good resource, but I don't want to be the first contact, or something along those lines. So Diane and I and others that we may rope in to helping us from the exec committee and others who want to be a part of this will begin the follow-up phase. And I guess my vision of this is, it's really a simple ask. Hey, would you like to learn about Rotary? You've been recommended as a potential member, and if I was making that email, I might invite somebody to a cup of coffee and have a conversation, or it certainly could be an invitation to join us for lunch one Monday. Don't envision really any hard sells. This isn't a pressure campaign, and we're going to get a lot of no's. It's not right, not time, but the hope is that we get a few yeses, and we have some positive results. In a way, happenstance, but this is just by us talking about membership and focusing on it, we're going to see some results. We have 2 new members so far. We'll have more information about that as we roll out membership announcements and the process of welcoming them into our club. But really want to say thank you for your efforts so far in helping us build the list. We're going to continue to work that list. We're not going to stop at 100. In fact, I'm kind of making the executive decision here that we're resetting that target goal on prospects to 200. So we're going to be working forward. The whole goal is to build a list, work through those contacts over the course of the early part of and throughout 2026, and ultimately build our membership back in Ames Rotary. Any questions? All right. Thanks everybody for your help. Jamie, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Randy. Great news, great news. Before we move on to our esteemed guest speaker today, I would like to bring up Simon Marshall Gilbert to talk a little bit about RILA, to give us a little bit more on that.
Yes, thank you for having me here today. Especially thank you, Kent, for having me as your guest. As I mentioned, I'm Simon Marshall Gilbert. I was a RILA conferee in 2024, and this last year had the privilege to serve as a team leader. So for those of you that don't know, RILA is a youth leadership camp that focuses on instilling the values of Rotary into high school students in order to make them the community leaders that you guys are at an older age. So these people, we go, and it's a 200-person camp. We had 212 people this year, and team leads are assigned to a group of 12 conferees and 1 Rotarian. So I got to lead a group of 12 kids and had the lucky opportunity of Steve Dakin, the former 6,000 governor, as my Rotarian. So we led a wonderful team this year. It was an absolute blast. And I reapplied this year. We don't have the results of who's in yet, unfortunately, but I also referred several of my conferees. So I wanted to thank you again for sponsoring me my original year and giving me the further opportunity to spread that to more candidates in the this past year. So that being said, we always need more people for the conference. So if you have children or grandchildren who are in the freshman to senior year of high school range or know any up-and-coming astute young teenagers in your community, it is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Every Rotary Club, I think, can send 1 or 2 candidates, as far as I know, and I encourage it for all teenagers. It's a wonderful development experience that develops skills in leadership, communication, emotional intelligence, project management, multiple team task managing skills. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. I highly encourage it for anybody that you know in that. So thank you again for sponsoring me, and be assured that you have paid it forward to the future generation.
Thank you, Simon, for coming and talking about that. I can attest, my nephew went this last year. He's a very quiet young man, but he did open up, and by the end, he really did not want to leave. He had made a lot of friends, and that was really not the case the first day. It was very frightening for him, but it opened it up, and we are sponsoring 2 this year. I can push the buttons to get us 3 if we really needed to. I think it's a great cause for all those involved, and appreciate Simon coming today to let us know about that. So I'm going to ask Tammy to come up and introduce Paul and talk about, well, we're going to limit him to talking about fiddles today.
Great, welcome. Well, Paul probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but I still made him write one for me. So Paul's a native of Missouri, steeped in bluegrass and country music. Paul joined the ISU Department of Sociology as an extension rural sociologist. After 40 years of research, teaching, and extension work, he retired and has returned to his roots of country music. Paul's professional and music run deep, and he run deep in rural Midwestern culture and agriculture, receiving the Iowa Master Farmer Exceptional Service Award in 2023 from the Iowa Master Farmers Association. He's a former Ames Noon Rotarian. He is no stranger to us, and it's also going to be my pleasure to introduce him as our newest member in 2026 as he returns to becoming a member of Noon Rotarian Club after a 4-year leave. Yeah, I'd also like to say, because I knew Paul from Rotary, we had been getting, Stevens has been running an instrument drive over the past few years. And, I don't know, 7 months ago, the person, our coordinator who runs it, Lorna, came to me and said, hey, we've had these, lots of violins coming in at once. And I think I figured out who it is. He wanted to be anonymous. And as soon as she said his name, I was like, well, yeah, I know him. He goes, well, he's supposed to be dropping off some more. So literally I watched my window for 2 days from Sheeman looking over at Stevens, and I saw our car pull up, and then I saw the back go up, and I did something. I looked back up. I could tell by the way he walked it was Paul. So I ran out, didn't I? I ran out. I'm yelling at him from across the parking lot, don't get in your car. And he's like, I don't know you. And it's like, yeah, you probably, I'm just yelling your name across the parking lot. So anyway, it was a joy he brings so much joy to the students who receive those. And he allowed us to pitch a story to Iowa State News Service about what he does, and then I learned so much more about what he does. So he's been on Talk of Iowa. He was just on Charity Nevity's show on December 23rd, and he's been all over the press, and we felt very fortunate that we get to welcome him here in his fame to talk about his violins and fiddles. Thanks, Paul.
Well, Happy New Year. It's really good to see all of you. And I guess I didn't have to buy my way back into the club. So they apparently have already voted, huh, Tammy? So my sponsors, Tim Grandin and Maynard Hoberg, I don't need to pay you now. So just so you lost again. Well, I've been asked to share a little bit about my retirement hobby of buying old fiddles, fixing them up, and donating them. So I've entitled my talk, Breathing New Life into Old Fiddles, If Only They Could Talk. So to start with, a couple of questions. How many of you took music lessons in a public school? I want to get your hands up. All right, and keep them up. How many of you still play a musical instrument? Those are the dropouts. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about a little bit about that. I assume most of you have modern automobiles and you have radios in them for music. Unlike me, that sometimes I have trouble figuring out which buttons to push. But music engulfs our entire being. Louis banded up here on the piano. We started today with music. Music surrounds us. And so part of what I want to talk about is really the importance of music in enriching our lives, which then comes back to my hobby of restoring fiddles. Let me talk just a minute about, while I don't have time to, I did want to make mention that I'm fascinated by recent research that shows the importance of music, learning a new instrument, or learning a new language as a prevention against dementia. I took up playing a fiddle when I was 70 years old. I should have started a few years earlier. But I'm fascinated by how music enriches our lives and actually extends our mental capacity. Some of you know I've played a number of nursing homes over the years, and even in dementia or Alzheimer's units where people are no longer verbal, you strike up the music and pretty soon you see them keeping rhythm, tapping their fingers or their toes. Now in my case, I've even seen them clasp their hands over their ears. But it's always, even when they're nonverbal, they still, the memories of music sticks with them through their whole life. I truly believe that language is the music of the soul. It's a universal language. Now, a quick example, is Dave Hansen here? I know Dave's a member of the club. Several years ago, Dave Hansen took a group of us to rural Mexico, Matarachi band, and I told Dave, I said, gosh, if I had an upright bass, I'd play with them. And a little bit later, here comes a pickup rumbling down this dusty gravel road, and they had an upright bass for me. And while I couldn't speak very much Spanish and they couldn't speak much English, we could play music. So we played music and entertained a group. Even though, I use that as an example of how language or how music overcomes that language barrier. Music's always been an important part of my life. And I first learned to play a pump organ when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. Now, because my legs were so short, I had to sit on my grandmother's lap, and she pumped the organ and placed my fingers on the right keys. The context of that is being a somewhat rambunctious boy, sitting on Grandma's lap in an unair-conditioned farmhouse, sitting on her lap with her arms around me. If you weren't nervous from playing and beads of sweat dripping off your brow, the insulation that she provided, but you know, that was my first music, was learning to play a pump organ that I couldn't pump. But I'll bet everyone in this room can remember the first song that you ever learned to play or sing. It never goes away. And just as people in dementia units can still keep rhythm by tapping their fingers or their toes, it's embedded in who we are. Well, as I was a farm kid in North Missouri, my folks couldn't afford a band instrument. And so throughout my entire grade school, middle school, and high school, I played borrowed instruments from the school. I remember the first time that I borrowed an instrument from the school was an old silver-clad metal clarinet. It came in an old beat-up case, and I always felt the stigma and the feelings of being disadvantaged because everybody else had a black wooden clarinet. And while I could play just as well as anyone else, there's still that sense of stigma. And at the time, I thought, you know, if I ever get to the point where I can afford it, I'm going to support music programs as an individual effort. So while I'm very grateful for the public schools that provided me an opening to band, and we didn't have an orchestra in Queen City, Missouri, where there's less than 100 students in the high school. We didn't have an orchestra. We did have a jazz band, which I actually liked playing. So skipping forward, sort of dropped out of music when I was in graduate school, played a few honky-tonks, but not very serious. But for 50 years, I played an upright string bass. And for many years, I had my own band here in Ames, Paul Lasley and the Guys. And some of you have heard the band, or likely heard our ensemble. Included former member, Rotarian Roger Volker, but also Johnny Burns, Tex Dean, Dick Hummonston, and earlier Gwen Coyle and Maury Powers. These were all band members that I've played with for 30 or 40 years here in Ames, but they've all died. I'm the last member. So part of what I do is I really want to extend their love of music to the next generation. So now skipping ahead, when I retired, carrying around an upright bass became more problematic, more difficult. You have to have a big car to carry it around. And I'd always promised myself when I retired I was going to learn to play the fiddle. Even though I'd been collecting fiddles for a number of years, I didn't have time, or felt I didn't have time to really take seriously. And so while I still play the upright bass from time to time with Larry Pettigo has a band here in town, the Dixie Slicks, which is New Orleans jazz, and I play upright bass from time to time for country bands or bluegrass bands. Really, I spend most of my time now playing the fiddle. So 4 years ago, I drug one of the fiddles out of the closet and hired a music teacher in Des Moines. This past August, he insisted that I enter the Iowa State Fiddlers Contest. There was over 100 of us in the fiddle contest. I think it was jinxed from the beginning because I didn't place. Well, I got a participation ribbon, but I'll tell you, I was just sort of mesmerized by sitting down there for 2 days watching fiddlers that could barely get up on the stage. And I've decided those are the ones you've got to be really suspect. They can barely get up there, and some of them were. You're supposed to stand and play in front of a microphone. Some of them were so decrepit they had to sit down. They couldn't stand that long. But you put a fiddle in their hands and sparks would fly off of it. So but anyway, I thought to myself, those stories of where some of these fiddlers that are 70, 80, 90 years old, I think the oldest we had was 97 years old. Well, I tell you that as a bit of background. A friend of mine, after he heard me playing at the state fair, said, he sent me a quote that said, "You're not the worst fiddler I've ever heard, but you better hope he doesn't die." We checked another one off of my Christmas card list. Okay, so let's talk about fiddles versus violins. They are the same instrument. They're the same instrument. The only difference is how they're played. Now, fiddle music historically has been passed down orally from generation to generation. In more recent years, there have been people who have been trying to put it on sheet music, but a lot of those songs are songs that have simply been passed down over time. Now, my great-grandfather was a fiddler down around Keosauqua, Iowa. He played barn dances. I have his fiddle. He died in 1922, so I never heard him play. And there's and not only that, I don't have any music. I don't know what songs they would have played around Keosauqua in 1922. I could guess some, but this fiddle that I've left unrestored because I kind of like the aging marks on it, the scuffs, and that's part of its legacy, part of its history. But violin music is generally learned from notes and scores on the printed page. Yeah, I can read music, but I can't read music and play the fiddle. There's too many things going on. But I can play by ear, just as I played by ear in Mexico with a group of strangers that couldn't speak English. I could hear the note, I can hear the rhythm, and so it's simply a matter of replicating and following. Well, I sort of backed into fiddle repair, and Tammy's mentioned a bit of it, but I've been collecting fiddles for many years. And so I tell people I'm not a luthier. I'm not trained as a violin or fiddle repair. I kind of like to refer to myself as a shade tree mechanic of fiddles. Some of the tools that I've made to work on violins, I simply made in my shop. And so I've built various things to work on fiddles. But it's important to know one's limitations. And so I don't work even on my expensive fiddles in my personal collection. I hire a luthier. We had one here in Ames. He's now moved to Randall, Randy Hoshar. Some of you may know Randy. There's 2 or 3 very reputable luthiers in Des Moines. But I can get enough parts to make a violin play. So I buy fiddles at garage sales, flea markets, estate sales, antique stores, pawn shops. And my wife and I are always on the look for fiddles. Now, most of the ones I buy are beginner or intermediate fiddles. it makes no sense to give a young person just learning a fiddle an expensive violin that's going to get a lot of abuse. So I really look for what I'd call Sherman tanks that try to be as indestructible as possible, because, you know, a violin bow makes an awful nice sword for any of you that have watched little kids. So I look for fiddles that are destined either for the burn pile or for a wall hanger. Now, I actually prefer German-made fiddles because, one, there's lots of them after World War II. Between World War I and World War II, Germany flooded the market with factory-made violins, and there's lots of them, and I can get parts for them, and I actually think that an old wood, aged wood violin, 50 to 100 years old, has a better sound than a new Chinese made. And China's got some good fiddles, but they also sell a lot of violins that I call them disposable. So it doesn't make sense to give beginners, because what you're really trying to do is teach them to place their fingers in the appropriate place on the strings, and hopefully they'll make some music. But so I get these fiddles from around the country, and I get much enjoyment and satisfaction out of breathing new life into old fiddles. I enjoy the opportunity and the challenge of gluing a box of fiddle parts back together to make it a violin. And as I work on these projects, I like to dream about the fiddles that are on my workbench. How old are they? Many of them are not stamped, so we really don't know the exact age. Who are your past owners? How did you get so beat up and broken? How did you end up at the flea market? If only they could talk, the stories that they could share. Well, when I retired, I got serious about buying these fiddles, and as my collection started growing, I needed to find a way to get them into the hands of young people. So it's all started in Arizona when my wife and I attended a couple of bluegrass festivals, and we heard a group of young people called Jam Pack out of Chandler, Arizona, that are disadvantaged youth from various races and nationalities. They're teaching them bluegrass music, and they've got a group of volunteers. They have about 60 teachers that volunteer, so it's an after-school program. So I contacted them and said I had some violins that I would like to donate. And we were driving back and forth, so we would overwinter in Arizona. So I said, the next time I'm in Iowa, I'll bring down some. I think I took them 12 violins from my stash. And they were overwhelmed that they never had a gift that large. And I think originally they were hesitant that probably I was bringing them basket cases, but instead they were amazed. I remember the director of the music and you want to give us these? And they said, yeah, this is who I am. So yes, fast forward, we sold our place in Arizona, but I kept collecting fiddles. And as my collection continued to grow, I began to get some messages from Lynette that I needed to thin the herd. It started out as, hey, honey, have you read C.Y. Stevens has an instrument drive? I sort of took that as a little, suggestion. Because we live in Northcrest in a small apartment. But over several weeks, the message got stronger and stronger that my cup runneth over. And so this mounting pressure that we needed to do something with these violins. And I actually dreaded the thought that it was going to come down between either me or the Fiddles, but somebody was going to have to vacate the apartment. So about a year ago, I told Lynette, okay, today's the day. We're gonna thin the herd. And I took six fiddles over to C.Y. Stevens' donation wagon right outside by the ticket office. There was nobody around, and that was good because I wanted to be an anonymous donation. Well, Lynette was so thrilled. She'd obviously been talking to my kids about this addiction to fiddles. She was so thrilled at getting rid of the fiddles that she took a picture of me putting these fiddles in a donation wagon. And then she sent this picture via Facebook to my kids. Well, I guess that's okay. I didn't think much about it. But several weeks later, then, I get a call from Lorna Carroll from C.Y. Stevens, whom I'd never met. And she asked if she wanted to verify my identity. And she asked me if I had recently donated some violins to C.Y. Stevens. My first thought is, they think I'm fencing stolen violins. Well, she was very gracious in saying, there's a large need for musical instruments in central Iowa, and thanked me profusely for my donation. I said, I was doing this anonymously, so how did you find out? Well, Tammy, you know the story. They tracked me down from that Facebook posting that Lynette made. And so that started, I said, well, and it's really nice because I just take the violins over there and C.Y. Stevens gets to notify the schools and they can ration them out. And so we have now violins, and of course in the Ames school system we have Boone, Nevada, Colo, Nesco. They could handle that. I don't have to apportion them out and with one thing and another. So over the summer, I finished up 12 more, so they'd be ready for the start of school. And thus far, this past year, I've donated 27 violins to C.Y. Stevens. So people say, well, where do you get violins? I say, wherever Lynette and I travel. So we were recently in Seattle, and we thrifted across the Pacific Northwest, and we bought them as far as it was. Last year we were in Florida. I bought fiddles there. Actually, I find the best place to buy fiddles is in Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. That's really bluegrass country. But so both Lynette and I are thrifters, and so we search for violins to keep her occupied and motivated. She loves antiques and Christmas ornaments and decorations and Christmas mugs, and I don't complain any about her buying stuff as long as I have room for my fiddles. So this just before Christmas, that's where I met Tammy. We made another donation so they'd be ready for the start of the semester. Well, just as I had the opportunity to play school-owned instruments, I want to pass that along, not only the instruments, but my passion for music, and to instill in others, paying it forward in supporting the arts and music programs. Especially for families that can't afford instruments. And so this is a small way for me to repay the opportunities that I've had to learn and appreciate music, and hopefully some of the students that are playing my instruments will have the same passion and level of enjoyment that I do. So this fall, I was doing this pretty much anonymously, and then this fall, C.Y. Stevens called and asked if I would consent to do an interview. Well, since my anonymity had already been breached, I consented if the focus would be on the C.Y. Stevens instrument drive. And the visibility from that news release has resulted not only in more donations and awareness of the program, but I have received 3 fiddles already, and in fact I'm picking up another one this evening. And so my plea to you Rotarians, if you have an old musical instrument lying around the house or in the attic or tucked away in a closet, and no one in the family is going to play it, please consider donating it to the C.Y. Stevens Instrument Drive. As I like to say, it deserves to sing again. Now, the C.Y. Stevens donation wagon is open, I think, 11 to 4, Tuesday through Friday. Right now, there's something over 300 young people in the orchestra program in the Ames Middle Schools. Some of these other schools are trying to get enough students interested to start their own orchestras. But they, so I know more about the violins and fiddles. But if you've got horns or clarinets, anything but a piano, they don't want any pianos donated. At any rate, that's the story of how I sort of backed into repairing fiddles and donating them to local schools. So if we've got a couple of minutes, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Yeah. Almost exclusively, not 100%, but fiddles are made with maple backs. Now you'll see various configurations. Most of that is painted on, but they're most always hard maple. The fronts are almost always spruce. And violins or fiddles are held together by age-old glue. In fact, the only glue you should use on one is called hide glue from hide glue, because you can separate it. Some of these new synthetic glues are stronger, but you cannot ever repair a fiddle that's been glued with these synthetic glues. It won't come apart. And so I buy hide glue. It comes in a granular form. It has to be heated and mixed with water. And so once in a while, I'll have to deviate off of that. But 95% of the glue jobs are with hide glue. And it's very, it's almost an art. I watch these luthiers that can fill in cracks and paint over them, and they look brand new. Mine don't look that good, but I still remember that old beat-up case that I had my first clarinet in. So there's a couple of things that I do with almost every violin. They all get new strings. They all generally get new tail pieces and micro tuners. I most always end up having to cut new bridges for them, and they all get a new bow and a new case. Because I want these young kids to have an instrument that they're proud of. And at that age, looks is everything. It may not sound very good, but and so I do that. So 90% of them get that treatment, at least that much. Then, if they come in boxes, I piece them together, and sometimes I have to cut new pieces for them. But I was a woodworker so I sort of combines my music and woodworking together. Good question, Warren. Yeah.
Paul, I would like Lily to make contact with you afterwards.
Oh.
She's having a bake sale. And since Maynard and I do not get any commission off this, we think it would be only proper for you to make it at least one cherry pie and some cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, well, Grandin's a beneficiary of my cooking skills. But thank you, Tim. Yes, we'll do that. Yeah.
Paul, I'll have you sign a book here for a 2-year on their well check.
The title of this book is Cats. Do you have one that says Fiddles?
No, I don't. I have one that says Dogs.
Dogs.
Yep, I'll have you both come up after. We'll sign that for.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie.
Everybody again for Paul. Lynette, if the Fiddles start talking back to him, you might be in trouble. So just keep an eye on that. So in closing, thank you again, Lily, for coming and talking about Rotaract, baked goods sale. So be thinking about that. Ryla, really appreciate Simon coming again and talking about Ryla. Thank you very much for the good of the order here. What a great example of paying it forward for the small things that you can do in life that probably go unnoticed can make the most impact. And as Paul was saying, if you have something in your closet a family member's not going to use, what a great way to pay it forward for the youth to be able to use that. So in that, let us stand and recite the 4-way test with me. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.